Hi, everyone. I'm Monica. This is our second episode of the reJUVEnation podcast, and I have a special guest here from New Jersey. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Johnny. Big Juventus fan and excited to be here.
All right. So, can you tell everyone why you picked Juventus? What's Juventus for you?
Juventus for me is everything I knew growing up. My family's from Italy. Growing up, my family was from the South, so there wasn't many big teams to root for. So, being from Bari, that Puglia region, um, you've seen Bari in the top division here and there, but there never was a team to root for, outside of that. So, my family took a liking to Juventus, and growing up, I was instilled with that DNA. So that's my
That's
story with Juve.
excellent. I said it on the last podcast, and I don't want to repeat myself all the time, but basically, for me, it was my dad kind of got me and my brother into Juve, and the player that kind of spurred us on and kept us going was Del Piero, and then ever since that, here we are, going strong, and the love hate relationship is is strong as well.
Yes,
So
it is.
yeah, so we'll get right into it for the post match for the Coppa Italia against Inter. So I just want to start off with we're having a great 2021 in general, and we continue our great form, and that's due to us being unbeaten in the last 11 out of 12 matches. So we're on a bit of a streak, which is good. I think that's exactly what we need going into the weekend against Napoli. Just to break down some comments, post match comments. Just Pirlo, I believe, spoke. This is from the Juventus website. So we can start off with him saying, "I'm lucky to have four excellent center backs, and they're all doing well. We played well today because Inter hardly had any shots on goal. We had the best chances, and Handanovic was the best player on the pitch." And to comment on kind of this with a stat from Optapalo, in the last six matches at our stadium, Inter's been unable to score a goal and conceded nine. And their last goal came in 2015 through Icardi at our stadium. So basically, what I want to get into with these comments and this stat is looking at our defense. It seemed that Demiral and Delict matched the performance that Chiellini and Bonucci, I don't know, exhibited against Roma. So, what is your favorite center back pairing? So it's a one-off match, the most important match. I mean, my brother said this the last podcast. Like every match seems to be, one more meaningful than the other. It's kind of that part of the season. Um, but just to hear your thoughts on it, what's your best center back pairing?
Yeah, I think I agree with your brother there. I think just due to the start that we had, I think as the games move on, we need to have our best lineup out there because every game is more important than the next. My favorite duo, I think, if it was a one-off game, Champions League final, let's just say, it would be Chiellini and Delict.
I have to agree with that. I'm not sure if you watched the first episode, but my brother's was Bonucci Chiellini. So
Well, there's experience there. I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I think if you were to field your best lineup, I think you can't ignore Delict's ability. I think he's far superior than Bonucci at this stage.
I agree. I agree. That'd be my pairing as well. Um, and another stat I wanted to mention on the topic of defense is that Juve made 6 clean sheets in the last 7 matches, which is more than any other top 5 European leagues team in this period, and that's in all competitions. So we'll get into those tactics and the different Juve we're seeing that Pirlo's putting out in a little bit. Um, so this quote from Pirlo after the game, he mentioned saying, "We defend in a 4-4-2, but mix it up when we're building moves depending on the opponents." So what are your thoughts on this quote in particular about Pirlo, for me, it shows his growth. And for me, it's a positive sign because we were very used to originally, I guess, in the beginning of this Juve dominance, we had Conte, who was very stuck in his ways and kind of plays one way, has his favorite players. You kind of it gets predictable in that sense, and then Allegri was able to change on the fly, and that was really good to see. And then Sarri kind of it was similar to Conte in those ways of playing one way. So for me, this is a positive thing for him to say in that sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's tremendous. I think he took a little bit of Allegri in his style of coaching for sure. I think when you're too predictable, like you said, eventually it gets old and teams catch up. You see it with Conte. You saw it with Sarri a little bit. I think that, the ability for us to switch from a 3-5-2, a 4-4-2, a 3-5-1, mid-game, it sets us apart from a lot of European teams. And it gives us the ability to really catch teams off guard. I agree with Pirlo that it depends on the game. It depends on who we're playing, and the ability that we have and the depth that we have to go out there and make a sub and then change the entire formation with just one sub. I think it's a great attribute, and I think it's going to bode us well as we move forward into more meaningful games.
Are you a part of Boring FC or Sexy FC?
I think Sexy FC for sure. I think that's why we went in the direction of Pirlo. I mean, for a more styled approach. I think that it's good for the brand. It's good for football. I think we need to take Italian football and run with it, run with what we know, and evolve it. So for sure, Sexy FC.
But I guess some would argue that these past few games have been Boring FC.
Yeah,
and
it
we've been
happens.
getting the results. So it's interesting to keep an eye on to see whether this continues or it is really just depending on the opponent, because much of Allegri was Boring FC. Like that was pretty consistent, especially near the end of his Juve career. So moving on, I asked you to send me your player grades. So those will be posted in the video. And just to pinpoint some players based on those ratings, it's safe to say that your man of the match was De Ligt. Can we agree on that? You gave him
Sure.
a 9.
Yeah, I think outside of getting a 10 for me, it was just a goal that he was missing. I think he had a complete game. He was strong. He had Lukaku in his back pocket. I would have given him a 10, but that's only if he scored a goal. So a 9 was almost perfect for me.
I'd agree with that for sure. If I had to pick someone from the back, because I think they were all pretty good, it would be De Ligt for me as well. He essentially, by pocketing Lukaku, he essentially broke down Conte's only tactic, really, because they often, send a direct ball over to a big guy. This was the same when he was at Juve. That's why he loved like Llorente and things like that. He the direct ball, he holds it up and he often lays it off to Hakimi, and then that's where they pretty much kill teams through that right side. So yeah, that was a great performance, and I'd agree with that. And who was the worst of the match for you?
Worst player of the match for me was Betancourt. I think that it's almost like I feel like he's regressing. He has some good spurts throughout the games, but his passing accuracy is just not there. I feel like out of the back when pressured, he's given up a lot of balls, and luckily we have the defense to clean up the mistakes. But you can see a difference, I think, now that Artur has settled down in Italy and has been comfortable. You can see how comfortable he is on the ball, especially out of the back, taking touches with the defense. it almost kind of looks like Betancourt has, is missing a place almost, right? If we were to put your strongest lineup out there, I think Artur would replace Betancourt at this point. And it's a shame because I love Betancourt, but I don't know in big games if I want him there, especially distributing out of the back.
Definitely agree on that. I actually fully sat down and watched like every second of the game this morning because I fell asleep yesterday after my shift. And I basically watched like every movement to see, what was going on. And Bentoncourt, pretty much I can count like 4 to 5 at least instances where he gave the ball away, or it was a misplaced pass, or like a miss hit on the clearance, and it kind of led to like those little half chances. And the games between us and Inter over the 2 legs were kind of coming down to mistakes to begin with. So for me, he was the worst as well. It's hard to kind of pick a worse player when our offense didn't get like too many things going. Because I also noticed that you gave Kulusevski a 5, and I could agree with that as well. To me, he didn't show for anything like as a second striker. For me in general, I'm not sure how I feel about him, or where he really fits on this team. So I guess, pose the question, because Dybala's on his way to returning. Where do you see Kulusevski when Dybala is fit enough? Because for me, Dybala subs in as a second striker to either Ronaldo or Morata.
Yeah, I think Dybala, in my opinion, the skill and class is there that he needs to be playing in some capacity, whether it's a super sub or starting as in place of Morata or Cristiano. But we know Cristiano's going to be there, so it's basically going to be in replace of Morata, right? And we'll probably see them rotate at some point. Kulu, I think I happen to like him. I like his style of play. I like the flair that he has. Does he hold on to the ball for too long sometimes? Yes, but with players like that, you need them to be able to have freedom and create. And Pirlo allows him to do that. So I respect that. I think that he's 20 years old. So I think we give him another year or two to really cast judgment on him and see where he fits. But in regards to Dybala coming back, I see Dybala taking his spot in the lineup, or if not, taking that second striker role. So I say we give Kulu time. I think there's a lot of potential there, a lot of opportunity. He's shown an eye for the net already. He has an amazing left foot. I think it's just some time and some polishing, and I think we're going to have a good player on our hands. But if Dybala's coming back, Dybala's the guy.
I can agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm not ready to give up on him by any means. It's just interesting because when Dybala does the little that he has played, and Kulusevski has been, I guess, pretty much on that right wing, they pretty much take up each other's space a lot because Dybala drops. If Dybala stays closer to the box, maybe it'd be a different situation, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's a good problem to have, for sure.
Yes.
Any more kind of thoughts on the game in terms of positives or negatives that you see with the squad in this game in particular, and what would you like to bring forward if you are seeing the positives, and kind of discussing that type of thing?
Yeah, I think positives for the game and for the last couple of games has been our defense, right? The amount of clean sheets that we've had. I think it's a great problem to have, having 4 center backs, so to speak, at Pirlo's disposal. I think that some negatives that I've seen, and it's hard to say negatives because we've been gaining points in the table. We've made it top in our group in Champions League, and we're in the final of the Coppa Italia. But I think negatives are just finishing. I think we need to be able to finish. I think that the midfield is doing a good job of creating opportunities, but I feel like we can always create more. and I think we need to be more vicious, I guess, and around the 18. Anything we need to take more opportunities. We need to get Ronaldo more opportunities in and around the box. I think by his standards, especially with the last game, he knows he could have put 2 away at least. So, that's on him. I know McKennie sent him up with a great ball. But I think we need to finish. I think that's a negative, especially when you're playing Champions League games and you're going down the wire in Serie A. We need to be able to put goals away with the chances that are given because, as you saw with this Inter game, there wasn't many chances. And when we had them, we need to take care of them because it's a game of mistakes. One bad ball by Betancourt out the back or something like that, and it's a different conversation that we're having. So, that's my biggest takeaway is just creating chances and finishing. And then obviously positives is the defense. I can't say enough good things about them.
Do you think the formation matters in general?
Not when you have a team like Juventus. I think formations matter when you play, Sarri ball, let's say, or things like that, because he has a philosophy that it doesn't matter the players he has, you need to play that philosophy. I think with the players we have and the coach that we have, I think that you have to let the attributes of the players come through. You have to let them do. You have to create their positives and bring them to light, right? So the formation is not a key factor here, in my opinion. I've coached at many levels. I've played at many levels, and it all comes down to the players making it work and putting it together, right? So there's always chances and opportunities, whether you play a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2, but we need to finish them, and I think that's the most important thing.
Because you mentioned Champions League, and it kind of caught my attention because, like how Conte has failed on so many attempts in the Champions League with his 3-5-2. So that's why I kind of posed the question if formation matters. But you kind of answered it pretty correctly in my opinion, because you alluded to Sarri being kind of one way and Conte is kind of one way as well with his tactic. I just sometimes believe that to win the Champions League, you have to have great wingers. So that's kind of why I asked whether you believe like a 4-3-3, for example, would be more beneficial in Europe than a 3-5-2.
Again, I think it goes back to who you're playing and what the game calls for. So Conte and Sarri's maybe lack of success in Champions League is just due to the predictability. You could watch a million tapes on them and just break them down, right? So I think having that unpredictability going into a game, maybe starting the game 4-3-3, and Dybala's in the lineup, against Porto. That's a lineup that teams haven't seen this year, really. So I think mid-game we could switch to a 3-5-2, bring in that extra center back for that, defensive prowess, and it changes the whole game. And I think that's what makes Juventus scary this year. And I'd like to say for the first time in a couple of years, I feel like this team, with the amount of options they have and how dangerous they are, and how unpredictable we are, whether it's our own fault or not, I think it's dangerous for other teams. So that's my take on that.
It's hard to disagree with that. I like that actually. Just to go through some topics on Twitter. So I personally read a tweet today. This person has like 97,000 followers or something like that. And I thought it was a wild tweet actually. Basically, the person tweeted that Juve has been second best in all 3 matches against Inter, but kind of still find a way, and in particular in the Coppa Italia, to actually pass. And then just to tell you what Conte said after the match, that they undoubtedly needed to make the most of the many chances that they created over the course of 180 minutes. So apparently they created many chances. I'm not sure where those chances were. Basically, my take on that is that it's pretty wild. I did not think that. Obviously, we got run over in the league match. It was quite obvious. But over the 2 legs, I didn't really feel scared or felt that they were gonna like really score or feel threatened in the first leg. After that, we kind of got caught off guard, and like they broke on the counter. It wasn't a good goal to give up, but then after we scored, and then we went up 2-1, like I did not feel like they were gonna score at all, or that they created much for me to see these takes. So I'm not sure how you feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we got punched in the mouth in the league. There was some concern, obviously, circulating after that game. We didn't deserve to win that game. We didn't play well, but it was a wake up call for sure. I think we bounced back fine. To say that Inter dominated every game we played, I think is foolish. First game, they start off hot with a Lautaro Martinez goal, Lautaro Martinez, and we strike right back with a goal. I mean, they made a mistake. We capitalized on it. So to say that they played better in that game I think is foolish. I mean, they made the mistake and we took advantage of it. So at the end of the day, we were the better team. You can't make mistakes at that. I think that mistake cost them in the second leg. I think we completely dominated the second game. Didn't put away our opportunities. They had some, but nothing, nothing to write home about. But they did have opportunities. But I mean, not Chiellini, De Ligt and Demiral, I mean, they closed the space down. I mean, space on the ball. They didn't have time. Lukaku was in De Ligt's back pocket. Demiral was everywhere. Rabiot was everywhere on the defensive end. The guy's pace was phenomenal. He was my second man of the match next to the defense and De Ligt. So to say that they dominated or had more chances is false. I give them that first game in the league, but not in the Coppa Italia.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree with that. But on the topic of Antonio Conte, there's a lot of talk about his star being removed and this and that. The real question is, did you sign the petition to remove Conte's star?
I did not. I saw it circulating. I don't like to get too emotional about these things, and I know as Juventus fans, we can get very emotional and say things in the heat of the moment. And I think that's attributed to our ups and downs emotionally for this fan base. So I try to not be so emotional with something like that. He did bring us out of a rut and won multiple Scudetti for us. Obviously with the help of the Agnelli family and the resources provided. But if you look at the teams that he had, I know the teams in Serie A weren't as strong, but still he brought us back to where we belonged as a club. So in the heat of the moment, you say things, you do things. It is what it is. I think as anybody who's played competitive sports would agree that in the moment, it's always just raw emotion. So to remove his star, I won't sign it. If it does get removed, I won't be angry about it. But I think that Juve are too big for that. I think to get involved in petty stuff like that we would regress as a club. To do something like that is foolish, in my opinion.
100% agree. I wouldn't sign it, but I wouldn't care either. But they wouldn't do it. Like,
Yeah.
they wouldn't do it. The only thing is that I get that I play sports too, and I get it, like frustration and you want to win and things like that. I think it's just the I guess the frustration coming from Juventini, or the response from the Juventini, I think are more towards like Conte being and saying what how he acts, what he says about respect and exhibiting this good behavior, like respecting my work, respecting each other's work as professionals, and then like how he acts contradicts like that stuff he says, right? So I just think it's like hypocritical of him, and I mean he's always been like that. And I guess we just loved it or whatever because he was at Juve and he was ours, and we didn't really see it because of that. But the more that we see like Conte at Inter, every quote after a game they tie or like lose is like we did everything. We played better. Like, we got unlucky, the refs, this and that. And it's always like, there's like 1,000 pictures of him like going nuts after the game towards the ref. And then, so I don't know. That's my take on it. I agree about the star. People are a bit excessive. It's always a thing of extremes on Twitter, one side or another. Social media in general. So I agree on that. I try to be as objective as possible. Um, so I think that's a bit silly about the star. Another topic on Twitter, or that Twitter wanted us to speak about, is regarding the midfield. So kind of touched on it a little bit. But the direct question was, how did our midfield cope without Arthur? So you did give the ratings of 8 to Rabiot and 6 to Bentancur. I don't know if we want to expand it to the kind of wing backs as well, but we can talk about those two guys and how they coped without Arthur.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned, I'd prefer to have Arthur there instead of Bentancur. Not to say that Bentancur shouldn't be in the team, but for a game like that, I would have liked to have somebody control the game, especially where we have a 2-1 aggregate lead. You kind of want to control the pace of the game and not give balls away. And Arthur has proven to do that, right? He's proven that he's confident on the ball. He's so calm and collected, and his skill set is phenomenal. So a game like that, I would like to see in Arthur. I understand that we're trying to rest guys here and there and do what we can. I think that we got away with playing Bentancur in that position. It was fine. He didn't do anything grave, grave that resulted in a loss of possession and a goal, but we had our defense to bail us out. So in regards to Bentancur, he didn't do anything phenomenal. He didn't do anything catastrophic, right? So that's my take on him and the rating that I gave him. But I prefer, personally would prefer Arthur over Bentancur. You mentioned Rabiot. Rabiot, I thought, was really, really good. I think he's completely stepping up this season under Pirlo. He gets a lot of slack. He gets a lot of, I guess, hate. I don't know if it's just Twitter, outside of Twitter, but he puts in the work. He works hard. He's got pace against Inter midfield that is very good. You have to give credit where it is. You need a player like that to win balls. He's a tall physical presence. I thought he did very good. I think the 6 rating that I gave him isn't a bad rating. I just think that he did what he had to do and he had a good game. So
I agree with that. I thought he did really well. He was kind of more to that side where Barella is, and him in combination with Alexandro and Bernardeschi, I thought they did well, kind of taming out Barella along with Hakimi on that side, and then De Ligt took Lukaku right out of the game. So I agree, and I feel like he offers. I mean, he's our strongest midfielder for sure, physically, and he just gallops with the ball. So, like, I don't expect him to play a killer pass or hold on to the ball for too long. Like that's more like Arthur and like Bentancur. If you're looking to keep the possession and pass like quickly and things like that, it's more those two guys. So I think Rabiot offers something different. And I mean, he was playing ever since the COVID lockdown. When we came back from the lockdown, it's like him and Bentancur switched form. Like he was on it, and we were finally seeing our investment come to life. And then since like a few weeks ago, maybe the beginning of the season, still I feel like he hasn't kept it up or like went next level, and I'm not sure really what it is. Me and my brother often discuss whether people which guys like really care about playing for Juve, and I'm not sure he's one of them. Like you can tell that like Chiesa, when he steps on the field, like he's excited to play for Juve, and I'm not sure if that's a reason why. I don't know how much it plays into playing the game as well. But yeah, so for him and like Bentancur, at times, I'm just kind of like waiting for them to take that step. But you mentioned something about Bentancur being like he didn't do anything great, but he didn't do anything catastrophic. And I feel like sometimes we say that about every midfielder that we have. So like how do you make like what midfield do you compile as our best midfield, as our best chance to create more for
Uh,
Ronaldo, create more in general?
if you're talking, right in the middle of the field, we're not talking wingers. I definitely think Arthur out the back, right in front of the defense. McKennie and Rabiot. I think you get a nice balance, and I think coaches often go back and forth with balance and trying to find, the right combination, right? So you have pace, you have passing play, and you have someone like McKennie who is more physical, tracks back on defense, helps out. So I think with that lineup in the midfield, and then you input your wingers, and we can flip flop wingers and things like that. But with those three there, I think they've shown the most in terms of deserving a play for that big game. That's who, if I started this game, that's who I would have played. And then if McKennie was tired, gassed, or on a card, then I'd bring in the likes of a Betancourt or something like that.
And you mentioning McKennie, because we don't really see him as a flat like center mid with Pirlo. We see him more on one wing or another. Would you prefer him to be like with those three, like as a three flat mid?
Yeah, I think he has the ability to play anywhere. I think Pirlo's played him out wide a little bit, just due to the style of play, right? But I think if we were to play like a true 3-5-2, I have no problem seeing him in that middle of the field. I'm not entirely sold on McKennie's potential. I don't know enough about the player yet. I've seen what he can do. I've watched some film at Schalke. He's had some great spurts here with Juve against some big games like Barcelona, but he hasn't done enough for me to cancel him out of the lineup or come in as a super sub or even come in as a starter. But it's still yet to be seen with McKennie, and I personally don't know what his ceiling is. I know there's a lot of people loving him right now, and he's fun and he's youthful. I personally don't know what his potential is going to be, or what Pirlo obviously sees in him. So they obviously like him. They like the style of play. They like his tenacity. He's strong. He won a bunch of balls back towards the end of the game when he came in. You have to appreciate that. So when you have players like Artur who are less defensive, more finesse, you have Rabiot who has pace. It's nice to have that player that comes in there and is going to track back and track down a player like Barella or Brozovic or something like that, who are making runs into the box.
Who do you think, if you can name one midfielder that you would just plop right in our midfield, who plus that midfielder would make up your midfield? You can have
Are you talking anybody from Serie A?
Any midfielder that obviously would be reasonable. Like we wouldn't get De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Like Juve wouldn't get De Bruyne. Anyone we've been linked to or that is that's retainable, I guess.
Yeah, I love Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio. We were linked to him, and I was so excited about that. That's the player we're missing, to be honest. That's a player that plays right behind the strikers, takes touches with the midfield, scores goals. That's what Juve need. I personally would after a player like him versus Chiesa. I'm happy Chiesa's here. He's youthful, he's fun, he's got pace, he's scoring goals. So I'm just saying that's the player that Juve need, and I think that's an actual player that we can actually get maybe next summer. I don't know if that ship has sailed, but that's a player that I would plop right in. Artur, Milinkovic-Savic, and then either Bentancur or McKennie.
100%. I agree that that's something we're missing, a goal scorer from the midfield. If you look along the years of I looked one night along the years since we started winning again, how much our shots from outside the box have decreased per game, and it's crazy. And so I agree with that. I feel like we have too many of the same guys, so um, that profile would definitely bring something more and different. Um, just to quickly, not to spend too much more time on this, but Ramsey's name was not mentioned at all. Are you Team Ramsey?
I am Team Ramsey. I think he has a knock recently, right, or an injury or some things like that. So I didn't want to bring him into the fold. I'm Team Ramsey all the way. I want to see him do well. This guy has scored a lot of goals with Arsenal in the Premier League, a lot from outside the box. So you mentioned scoring from the midfield. I find it kind of astonishing how two different coaches so far, and obviously Pirlo's a new coach, but how we can't get this guy to score more goals from outside the box, right? So, I mean, I watched film on him, and this guy was scoring like amazing goals outside the box, in the box, and he shows that tenacity when he plays. He's taking opportunities, whether they get blocked or whatever. But I'm Team Ramsey. I know a lot of people are not, but I want to see him do well. I hope he finds form sooner than later before his time is up. I want to see him in Juve for years to come.
Agreed. He's definitely the only guy the only guy from the midfield who tries to get in behind the strikers and tries to get in those little pockets and holes. So hopefully he can put on a run of games for us, especially going forward in Europe. The last type of question that Twitter wanted us to go over is in regards to Alexandro. I'm not sure what your kind of baseline thoughts are on Alexandro, on his time at Juve, on his, I guess, regression, because I think it's pretty clear that he's regressed. But is he winning you back if he's lost you to begin with?
Yeah, I think Sandro is, we have a bunch of players that don't do anything bad, but don't do anything great. I think he's the captain of that group. But he hasn't lost me. He never did. I think just because he's so consistent, he's strong. He's not great in the build up. I feel like when he pushes up, we kind of lose the creativity. The ball kind of stops, and then he just passes it or just crosses it to aimlessly in the box. But that's on the offensive end. On the defensive end, I feel like he's strong. He's strong. He's hardworking. So it kind of balances out for me. I feel like we had the opportunity to sell him. I think to Chelsea was a couple of years ago for like 60 mil. Looking back in hindsight, I would have done that. I would have liked to seen some of the younger guys come up and take that role. So if we sell him and we can get value for him, I'm okay with that. I'm not against Sandro, but I feel like there's not much more we can get out of this player. And I think maybe a change of scenery would be beneficial for him in his career, especially with the World Cup looming and him trying to get a spot on that Brazil team. So I don't see that as a bad thing. I wouldn't mind moving on from him if we kept him. I'm not opposed to it either.
How did he do against Inter in your eyes?
I think that he was fine defensively. He was strong. He kind of kept Perisic in line on that wing. Like I said, when he comes up, he kind of gets lost. The ball, he's just kind of out there, and he'll do like a 1-2 touch with Guardado. Nothing really develops. It's not like a player that we've seen on other teams that they have these overlapping wing backs that just are taking touches in and out around the box and crossing the ball. I bring up a player, and it's hard to compare, but a guy like Marcelo, who is a lot more offensive minded, but still came back and played defense. I mean, those players are hard to find. So I don't want to make that comparison, but I just feel like he's just one dimensional. I thought he did good. I didn't think he did anything bad. I know I saw tweets that, he had a great game and he's winning hearts back, and that's fine until he has an okay game and we may lose a game and, we'll point fingers. So I think he does really good on one side of the ball, and then he's non-existent on the other. So that was my take from the Inter game.
Yeah, I think he's been okay the past 2 games. For me, he's not a starter. For me, I would put Danilo on the left backside, and then Cuadrado. I'm a big Cuadrado fan on the right. He kind of suffered. Well, honestly, he really only suffered once, maybe twice at tops against Hakimi. And he did, like, when De Ligt and Demiral, when they passed those 2 guys, it was either Alexandro or Danilo picking up the slack. Like, it's like you get past one guy and the next guy was there to pick up the slack and recover the ball. So I thought they all worked really well with that. I thought it was interesting. I'm not sure if you noticed in the first half, especially, Sandro and Danilo were kind of playing as like 2 defensive midfielders. So it was kind of like it was like De Ligt and Demiral as the 2 back, and then Bentancur would sit in the middle when we had possession of the ball, and they were like extra midfielders, but like narrow. So I thought that was interesting. I've never seen that before from Pirlo, or like with this system of having wing backs. So I'm wondering if he does that again. But like you said, he kind of doesn't do anything spectacular, and he doesn't cost us too much. But for me, he's not a starter. A lot of people say if he's gonna play, like, why not just play Frabotta? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, like I said, I agree with you about the narrow play. I saw that. I think that just goes to show you how we can transform due to the opponent. And I think the goal was to keep Inter outside, right? And if they beat us in the air, good luck with De Ligt and Chiellini. If you score, you score. But I think minimizing Lautaro at the top of the box, minimizing Lukaku at the top of the box, Barella, was the game plan, and having them, if they beat us, it was outside. So they did a good job, and that was, I think, tactical genius by Pirlo. And then in regards to Frabotta, I'm all all for it. I think, maybe not this season, but next season, I think you give him that opportunity to lose the job, right? Give him the opportunity to lose the job at least. I love seeing the young talent come through. So yeah, I agree with you there.
So just to end that off, who starts on the left side for you?
This season, Sandro.
And you would put Danilo on the right and Cuadrado on the bench?
I like Cuadrado as a super sub, but I also don't mind if we play a 3-5-2 and Danilo plays center back. So he's played really good center back under Pirlo. He's almost played better center back than left back or right back or wherever he plays. So I just think that if Danilo is playing center back, I don't mind Cuadrado up on the wing. And I think it all depends on the game and who we're playing. So either or works for me.
Fair enough. Just before I hear your one-liner hot take, that may or may not be controversial.
Probably controversial.
I'm not sure of the time right now, but I'm sure it's close to Napoli Atalanta time. So who would you rather face in the final?
Napoli. Atalanta scares me. I know they're not having a phenomenal season, but they still scare me. I think Napoli is a very good team. They play maybe some of the best football in Serie A when they're focused and on. But I'd always rather play Napoli versus Atalanta. I think it's a good rivalry. I think it's fun, and I think we can, with the right mindset and the right lineup, we can dominate Napoli. Similar to how we played against Inter. I don't know if Atalanta goes through, which I think they will if I was to bet. Atalanta's tough. That's a game where, you're switching formations mid-game. They'll do the same thing, and if they go down, they're gonna send everybody. So I'd much rather play Napoli.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. The only thing that is tricky is I'm not sure how long Gattuso is going to stay for, and it's always tricky to play a team with a new coach. Sometimes the players kind of give up on the coach and they stop playing for the coach, and then once there's a change, they find some new sort of confidence and things like that. But as of right now, I would agree with you. Atalanta is just they're tricky. They're just unpredictable, in my opinion. So I agree.
Gasperini is a very, very good coach. So if not to take anything away from Gattuso, but Gasperini's been doing it longer. He's had some success in Europe. He's shown that his philosophy is embedded in those players, and they play for that style of ball. So just with the inconsistencies Napoli have, and even if Gattuso's still the coach, I'd rather have that opponent. And not to take anything away from them, but I just rather play them than Atalanta. But that's wishful thinking, I think.
We'll see how that one turns out. So here we are. I would love to hear your hot take. Hopefully, some people engage with us based on your hot take. So let us hear it.
My hot take, and I said this on a previous podcast. I don't think Juventus is going to win the Scudetto this season. I want them every way, shape, and form to get that 10th Scudetto. I just think that with Inter out of all competitions, I think that they are going to be all in. They're going to have rest. They're not going to play midweek. They're going to be full force for the Scudetto. And I think AC Milan, I think it's theirs to lose at this point. I mean, I don't believe in them 100%. Amazing season by them, but I feel like eventually they're gonna crack, and I think Inter's gonna finish ahead of them. But if it's not us, I'd rather have AC Milan and obviously not Inter. But that's my controversial hot take. I didn't get any flack from it when I said that last time, and I only say that because I think we've dug ourselves too big of a hole, and I think that obviously Champions League is very important to Juventus this season. So I think with all the competitions, I don't see us winning the Scudetto, which sucks. It's I really thought that 10th in a row we were going to get it, but I just don't see it happening if the other teams don't drop points.
Does your opinion change? Let's say this weekend. So Milan plays Spezia, but Inter plays Lazio. If Inter fails to get 3 points from Lazio, and then there's the Milan derby the following game week, and let's say they fail again to get 3 points, potentially they tie, do your feelings change? I feel like I agree with you in a certain way that it feels scarier this season. It's always kind of been a lock. Even last season, like we only won the season by 1 point, but you still felt it was a lock. Like kind of near the end, we kind of got lost in the amount of games and things like that, and it felt like it was won already. But I feel like if those teams like drop points, we still have to play against those big teams one more game, right? So I don't know. I think you're writing us off a little bit too early.
No, I definitely am, and I think that's the slack I'll probably get after this, especially on Twitter. I'm not gonna check my Twitter after this, but it's not that I'm writing us off. It's a lot. We're in a deeper hole for sure. We're in a deeper hole than previous seasons, and you definitely felt in previous seasons that no matter what, how close Napoli was to us, or how close Inter was behind us, I think that we felt comfortable, and I just think that the talent level is so much more advanced with these other teams, and I think Milan is playing out of their mind. I don't think anybody saw them doing that. So I think if Inter drops points both those weeks, you can ask me again, and I'll probably change my mind. If they don't, and they beat Lazio, and then they win in the derby, I don't want to say it, but they're making a statement. But so that's my hot take for sure, and hopefully I'm wrong. So I hope I'm wrong.
That's I mean, you can't fully disagree with that. So you shouldn't get too much slack about it. Uh, um, basically, to end off, I try to. I mean, as the podcast grows, hopefully more people will engage in this part of it. Basically, I want to end off each podcast with a little trivia question. The first episode of the podcast, I did a guess the goal type of thing. This one I'll do guess the player. So I basically give a hint, and then the player that you think it is, you make that guess. You don't have to answer yourself. Um, Maybe you can answer in response to the video link when I post it. The hint is for this one that I won both the Coppa Italia and the Super Coppa Italiana before joining Juventus for a transfer fee of about 10 million euros. So the riddle again is that I won both the Coppa Italia and Super Coppa Italiana before joining Juventus for a transfer fee of about 10 million euros. So you can guess the player for that hint. And I want to say thank you to Johnny for joining me out of your busy work day. Maybe you can send me some cheese
Got you.
to Toronto.
For sure.
And I'd love to have you on again. So thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.